All right, 2002 Chevy Suburban. Since I had already removed the intake manifold, I decided to go ahead. The valve covers, you can see here the oil line. They were leaking pretty heavily down this slope and kind of corroding the area there underneath the intake manifold. So I wanted to go ahead and I'm replacing the valve cover gaskets as well. There were, trying to think, I think there were 3 or 4 bolts that bolt the bridge here that contains all of the ignition coils, all the coil packs rather, for each spark plug there. So I had to remove those bolts. Let me see if I can dig one out of the pan here. Those bolts look like that. And so there were those, and then there was a plate for the heater hoses that I had to remove, and it was there were 2 nuts there, one on top, one on bottom, that I had to remove. So all I decided to do, rather than disconnecting all of my plug wires and risk tearing something or creating a short, I just went ahead and rocked that to the side and then pulled off the valve cover. So I'm gonna clean that up real good, and I've got some Velcro valve cover gaskets I'm gonna put in. Again, since I already had the intake, and I think it's a smart idea to put something over your intake manifold ports here. I just decided to use a little duct tape. Hopefully it won't stick too bad so that nothing falls down into the engine there. So that's where we are. You can see I really cleaned that mating surface there. Just really light grit sandpaper. So just smooth that out, removed any of the old gasket material. I did wind up pulling the 2 plug wires off of the coil packs and back. So the back 2, so that I could rock that assembly over to the passenger side a little bit to get better clearance. And then as far as the valve cover itself, you can see it's just got a lot of caked on oil on it, so I sprayed it down with some gunk, and I'll let that penetrate for a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and get that cleaned up. I'll put the new gasket in, and then you can see you've got the 4 holes there that the hold down bolts go into, and I've got some new rubber grommets for those. So get it all cleaned up back on the car. So this is a finished product on the valve cover on the passenger side. A lot of grit and grime I had to get off, but finally got it off there, and then I put the Velcro gasket in. You can see here, there's the underside there. So tried to do a pretty good job cleaning it up before I reinstalled it on the vehicle. And then a couple of shots of the engine bay here once I had it all installed and put back in there for the passenger side there. Yeah, it cleaned up nicely. So the valve cover on the 2002 Suburban's not too bad. You just got a few bolts in here to pull to remove all the coil packs here. There's a nut here that you've got to take to remove the heater hose bracket, and then there's going to be a bolt underneath that you got to take out. And there's a bolt here and here, and then there's one in the back beyond the last coil pack, which is really difficult to get out. There's not a lot of hand room. I think that's probably, of both sides, that's probably going to be your most difficult one, because it's right there next to the firewall with all of that insulation and everything. And I had to use a little opening wrench to get that one back there. But I got all my plug wires back on. I got the Velcro gasket in. Everything's cleaned. That was one of the largest parts of the operation here, was just trying to keep everything clean. All of the new hold down bolts for the valve cover have new grommets in them, all new rubber grommets. Clearly those were all leaking. When I went to pull them, they were very brittle, so I'm happy that I went ahead and did this job as part of this process here with the intake manifold. So here's the valve covers on the driver's side. Just absolutely filthy inside with that PCV valve venting vapor in there to be reburned. Just don't like that setup at all. It was disgusting. And you can also see here the valves
on the driver's side. They were much dirtier than the ones on the passenger side. Passenger side valves were kind of honey colored, and this definitely looked like it had some burnt oil on it. But after I finished cleaning up everything there with the valve cover on the driver's side, I thought it turned out pretty nice. Did the best I could with it, with both the top and inside.
All right, so I'm done with the valve cover gasket on the driver's side of the vehicle. I'm trying to get the lighting right here. It's nighttime now. Anyway, did have to pull the plug wires off of the coil packs with to the spark plugs. There were 5 bolts to remove that bracket with the coil packs on them, and then once you remove that, you pull the plug wires, you can kind of rock that out the way, and then underneath there are 4 bolts that hold the valve cover to the head. They've got rubber grommets in them, so all that's been replaced. Velcro gaskets installed. The driver's side was easier than the passenger side. The only thing I don't like is, I think it's that PCV valve in the back. It pushes a lot of emissions into the valve cover on this side, and the valve cover internally was just absolutely filthy. It was just all gunked up in there, and the valves on this side were a lot more corroded and covered with I guess the emissions, the burned oil than the passenger side. So not happy about that, but all in all, got it back together. So tomorrow I'm going to come out and finish detailing the bay there where the manifold, intake manifold will sit, and might replace the NOx sensors as well. I've got to go through the intake manifold tomorrow and just make sure there are no cracks, because it is a plastic manifold. So signing off.